It should be on us now. I'm waiting for it to catch up so we can see. Well, so I can see. Should be on us now.
Yeah, here we go.
It should be on
Let's do
us
this
now.
now
Let's see.
with code with the checkout. Oh, what you put
Dang.
on there, man?
What the words? Let's
What's
see.
that? Yeah, the 10%
Well, so I can
discount.
see.
What's that?
Should be on us now.
Here we go.
I'm a brand ambassador for that brand.
Oh, the code brand you was talking about.
Yeah. So I'm like
Oh, what you put on there, man?
promoting myself. What the words?
Oh, I'm sorry. I got it playing in the
Yeah.
background.
I'm getting fancy with it. 3 viewers.
Dang, didn't you just get out of class?
Yeah.
So when is Virginia Tech's when is it over? Like when it's like last week?
I think the week of the 9th, 15th. My last finals on the 9th. So probably around that time.
Just around the
It's
same
picking up
time.
Let's pick up the fan on my Mac. That's crazy. I hope. Wonder if this changes it.
You sound normal. Well, on my end.
You don't hear like the fan blowing in the background?
Do you hear a fan? Is it your fan?
Nah, yeah, like the fan on my MacBook because it's doing a lot right
Okay.
now.
So I have a fan going, but I was like, dang, do you hear this fan? Do you hear this fan?
Nah,
Okay. I thought you couldn't. Oh. Yeah,
it was
I don't
loud
hear
when I turned it on. Oh well. Person that's in the chat that isn't me or Kamaria, can you say something? Like interact with us? I didn't mean to call them out like that. I'm just like, it's only 3 people in here. One of them is me, one of them is you.
When it's only one other person, is always gonna feel like a call out because it's like, dang, nobody else here but me.
I just sent it to one of my group chats, so like maybe they clicked on it. Who knows? And they're not saying anything. That's unfortunate.
It's okay. Let's chop it up. How's Wednesday?
Wednesday was chill. Let me think. I grew the team. If you know, you know. I grew the team.
You grew the
So,
team.
Yeah, remember that one team that I put together?
That
That I
are you talking
just, I'm not trying to say on the internet, but like,
I'm sorry. You're talking about
remember?
the one that I'm in. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that one.
Okay, yeah, yeah. I
Oh,
thought you were talking about
Zoe.
something else.
Hi, Zoe.
Hi, Zoe.
Yeah, that team. The team grew. I'm really excited for Friday. If you know,
Yay.
you know.
Type.
Yeah. How was Wednesday for you?
That's gonna be good. Wednesday for me was long, and it's gonna. I can't wait to go to sleep after this. I just woke up from like a 3-hour nap to hop on here, and I'm going right back. No lie, I'm going
Wow.
right back. But that's because my school ends next week, so I'm going through the finals right now, and it's a lot. But I finished 2 out of 6 of my classes, so yeah, it's a lot.
Dang.
But no, I'm actually kind of sad because, like I said, I work at a school, for the summer or whatever. But this little girl, they like to write me notes because I really promote like writing there. I just promote different ways for them to express their feelings. 'Cause you know how kids are; they don't know they just don't know how to like do anything. So when they express their feelings, it always comes off wrong because they're kids, obviously. So some of them started writing to me, or I came up with this thing called the mirror theory. That's a whole nother thing, but the mirror theory. But with the writing, I've started like getting letters from kids, and this one girl, her letters really stood out to me because she's a 3rd grader. She's 9 years old, and she like in her letter she talks about she prays to God and how like she'd be like, God, can you help me? This is
Whoa.
a 9-year-old girl. Yes, I'm actually gonna read it to you. I have it right here. I started crying. So I watched their cafeteria. I would do the cafeteria duty for the 3rd graders. I literally started crying in the cafeteria. I had to step out for a second because it was so heartwarming. I was like, oh my God, this 9-year-old girl is talking about God and how I'm just going to read it. or Mrs. Kirk. She called me Mrs.
Powerful. Powerful.
or Mrs. Kirk. I know that. Oh yeah, and she also spelled my name Curk, not Kirk. Kirk. That's such an ugly way to spell Kirk. Curk. I don't know who would think to do that, but she said, "I know that you said that it's better to write things down instead of saying them out loud. I just want to say I'm sick of people and sick of getting yelled at, but I guess that's how life is." Then she said, I have prayed and I say, God, I don't know what you are doing, but I am trusting what you're doing and I hope you can help me. Thank you for everything you have done. If you want to, you can talk to me about what I'm talking to you about if you don't understand me. But Mrs. Kirk, I just want to let you know that I love you. XOXO. This is a
A
9-year-old girl.
nine-year-old. That's
9-year-old. Talk about
insane.
I
That's
prayed
insane.
to God and I tell him I don't know what I do, but I'm trusting you. And she wrote me another one today. So this one looks like it's very much kid writing. But she gave it to me last week. And she gave me this one today because she's been sad lately because there's a daddy daughter dance coming up on Friday. And I'm going because I'm dancing with the little girls who don't have don't have dads or the dads aren't in their lives or nobody can go. So I was like, she'll sign up to go and you're gonna be dancing with Miss Kirk. I'll be the step in father on Friday. But so yeah, that's what's going on Friday. But today she said because I told her she spelled my name wrong and I said I forgot how to spell your name again. So then she said, so I know it's better to write things down before I know you said that it's better to write things down before going to bed. And I did. So I told you that I didn't like my dad. It's because I heard he didn't want me. So I don't really talk to him every day. And whenever somebody else mentions their dad, I think about mine. But I love you and I always ask God why me. But I'm not going to let my dad take over the rest of my day. And that's all she wrote. But 9 years old. Isn't that crazy? Talking about God and that she prays and that and she seems so like in tune with it too. Like it just made my heart warm. It's like, oh, the fact that she's like, but I'm not gonna let that take over my day. I feel like any other 9-year old at that point will, just react totally differently. But just seeing like, I don't know, it's crazy.
That's just like that's so. It's so good that she's aware of all of that at a young
Yeah.
age. It's sad that she's aware of her father's situation. Like I feel for that. Not s-
Hmm.
I don't feel for that because I don't have a dad. I have two parents that are married, but it's just sad knowing that at 9 years old, she's like I don't like. She's just sad about that, and she
Yeah.
feels those emotions. Because I didn't realize. I was thinking about. I think about this a lot. Like putting yourself in other people's shoes. As I got older, I realized the effects of not having a present father, or at least not having married parents. Like,
Yeah.
I have a decent amount of friends that have been in that situation, and as I continue to meet people, they're also in that situation. So it's like really hard just imagining what that would be like, and I just feel for these people because that has a big effect on uh that does have a big effect on people. Like
Mm.
some girls would tell me, and I would just realize in general that when they don't have a good male role model or father figure, sometimes they don't know what a good man looks like and what standard they should set for themselves. So now we got people our age and younger just running. Not it's not even their fault.
Yeah.
Like they're going for the wrong type of guys. They don't know what they want in a dad. Like used to toxicity in relationships. Like it's just so sad seeing this and like that 9 year old girl. It's so good that she realizes she needs a relationship with God, and I hope she realizes she has a spiritual father.
Yeah. No, for sure. And I think that's also what she's beginning to pick up because like she'll tell me even outside of the writing, she'll just tell me, I'm just gonna pray about it though, Miss Kirk. I'm just gonna pray. I'm like, and that just goes to show you there's no right age to start. 'Cause I used to think like when is like the best time for a child to like I don't know come to Christ or like when's the best time to start. I feel like as a baby you start talking to your children about God, but then it comes a point where a child needs to grow into their own and have their own relationship with the father, like, so I don't know. But seeing that, I was like, wow, it's like really profound. I've never experienced something like that. So when she came to me like that, I was like, but it put me in kind of a weird position because as a teacher, we're not allowed to speak about that to kids, you know, which I feel like if a child is talking to me about it, then I should be able to say something back. It would be different if I like started it, because they don't want you to like put your own beliefs on the children and the children go home and the children tell the parents, situations like that. But I feel like if she's coming to me telling me her beliefs and I share the same beliefs, then I should be able to say something and emphasize on that because I have a lot I can say, but really have to tiptoe around that. And I really hate that feeling because this little girl, she needs to hear it and she's actually at a point where she can't understand it. So I definitely do the best that I can. That's why I tell her like if she don't know the right way to react or what to say, always write it down. That's what I told her. Start writing down before she go to bed. Anytime. Yeah. When do you think is the best time?
I think if, well, like, from my, from what I know, from what I've heard from other people,
Mm-hmm.
everybody, I'm gonna say everybody, most people come to that understanding around late high school years. Like me
Mm-hmm.
personally, like junior year, like as we are going to the pandemic, that's when it started to be more aware to me. Where I started to become more aware of the fact that I need to work on this.
Mm-hmm.
And for many people I've met, it's been the same. It's been around this time in college, late high school, that they realize I need something spiritual. I need God in my life. But
Yeah.
also, I think what benefited me was I grew up in a Christian household, Christian family. My family always instilled the presence of God in me. So I could never forget. I could never let the thought of the fact that uh, um, I've grown up a Christian. I just couldn't let that go. And I went to Christian schools all my life. So it was there.
Really.
They kept it present in my life.
Yeah.
So if a child is consistently grown into their religion and properly disciplined growing up, then I think at some point, the right time, they're gonna come to realize it's time for me to take over. Not my parents forcing me to go to church like it's a chore.
Yeah. So, dang, bonus question. Do you feel like, because I hear a lot of parents talking about they don't want to, they want their child to, and I feel like these are only parents who aren't deeply rooted themselves or are kind of confused on their own beliefs themselves. So I hear some parents talking about how they just want to wait till the child is older to come to their own idea of their beliefs. Like they wouldn't say anything about Christianity, just any religion at all. They'll just be like, that child can decide when they're older. Or do you feel like it's up to the parents to instill that in them? Kind of like how your parents did with you. Like you've always had it since you were a child. So you just grew up and of course you got your own belief towards it, but it's the same belief initially. So do you feel like allow a child to grow into whatever religion they want to or instill it to your child when they're younger?
I think there might be a verse, a Bible verse about this. I think in the Old Testament, but I'm pretty sure it says, as Christians, the parents are supposed to be the role models and leading their child into Christ. And like, if they're saying they want their child to decide, I don't think they're necessarily a Christian, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And if you raise your child like that, your child's gonna know the Ten Commandments. One commandment being honor your mother and father, and that could be applied in many ways. But it's not really hard to understand that honoring your mother and father would be to act how you were raised the right way.
Mm-hmm.
So by the right age, they will understand that they are a Christian. Now, I mean, as far as letting the parent, as a parent saying, I want to let them decide, I think that means the parent hasn't decided either, honestly. Uh, it's like you said, they're not properly rooted. But if you just like, that's almost like saying, I'm gonna let my child raise himself. Like, I'm gonna let my child. I mean, obviously they learn how to walk on their own, but I'm gonna let my child learn about life on their own, learn about college, stuff like that.
Right.
You need some sort of parental guidance. Like, it's, I don't know how to explain it. It's almost scientifical how we, I think when we always need something, like at the very lowest, we go to our mom probably. Most likely go to our mom. Like with life is at its worst, you're gonna pick up your phone and call your mom.
Yeah.
And you can't, as a parent, say, "Nah, learn your emotions yourself." Like, you gotta have some sort of guidance. That's just, I feel like that's just knowledgeable parenting. Like, I
Yeah.
always working in retail, I just see like a bunch of parents with kids. I just, in my mind, I'm just thinking, yeah, you shouldn't be a parent. And I mean that of love. You're just not responsible enough, or you don't understand how to properly raise a child to be disciplined.
No. Heavy on the discipline. I definitely believe in that when it comes to kids, because I mean, they literally don't know. They don't know anything from the moment they're born. You literally have, honestly, God gave you complete control over that child's life. So, however that child sprouts up, you definitely have to look at the parents. People, and even parents want to be like, well, that was their choice. But it's like, what did you do for them when they were younger? Everything has a root, everything comes from something. Like, I'm looking at the household off rip. If I see a child acting up, or I'm like, dang, who's your mama? Like, every single time, who are your parents? Where are your parents at? There's parents that they believe that the kids should 100% have complete control over their life. No, God doesn't even work that way. We're His children. We don't even have 100% complete control over our life. So just really it to Him. That's never how it's supposed to be. Now, I don't mean be extra strict on your kids. They still need growing room, but they need guidance. The only way to get that is from the parent. Like, guide me so I can know right from wrong. But parents just have their kids out here just acting a fool in simpler terms. And going with the when should you talk to your kids about beliefs? I would say that's just like talking to your kids about anything else. For instance, what example do I want to use? Like, kids are never gonna learn how to walk if you don't pick them up and like make them walk. If you don't just hold them all the time and their legs start going, like, they wouldn't know how to walk, and that if you never did that. So they would never know God if you never talked to them about God. If you were, really a Christian, you would instill that in your children as well. So if you're saying you're gonna let your child grow up to discover whatever they just want to discover on their own, you struggle as a parent. You struggle with your own beliefs. There's no way any parent that was rooted or knew exactly what they want would have their child go out and do it on their self, on their own. So I feel like that just applies to every area of life. But yeah, I look at the parents all the time. Now, I'm not saying there are instances where where kids kind of go off on their own and just pick up from the world and from other people. But if you were really in your child's life, if you really disciplined them well, there's no way your kids will ever go off to have some sort of life that just isn't right. I don't know. I don't see how kids go off, and now you do come across the wrong people. But if your parents, talk to you about that, if you were coached in that way, you would know, like, these people aren't for you. You would just know how to handle that. You wouldn't go follow somebody else. So that's what I believe. Everything goes back to the parents. It's a root.
Yeah, in DC, there's been like a very high spike in violence and murder, like gun violence, and it's mainly been among kids that are like middle school age, 14-year-olds, 13-year-olds. And my grandfather was talking about this. He said every time one of these kids gets arrested for doing something wrong, like Like there was a 14-year-old kid that shot and killed someone in D.C. And because he's 14 years old, he can't go to prison for life or anything. He's just gonna, because he's a juvenile, he's just gonna get in and out of whatever local county jail there is.
Mm.
And the parents always say, "I know my son. They're not a bad person. Then why did they shoot and kill someone? Obviously, you don't know your son, and they're not a good person. They're letting Parents are letting kids just run down the streets, do whatever they want, meet whoever they want, do whatever they want, no sort of discipline, and it's reflecting. And I think part of the reason is, I'm not trying to shame anybody that's like this, but every time somebody has a child at a young age, there's someone not ready. Like people that have birth before, like maybe let's say 20 or something like that. I'm not even put a limit to it, but if you have a child at a young age because of a mistake you made, you're not gonna know how to raise the child, and worse, you're not gonna be in some sort of stability to raise a child. You're still trying to figure out your life. So like all these mistakes that we make at young ages, these big mistakes, they start to reflect on these children. Like if you think about Krishan Rock and Blueface, they've been the meme of celebrities having kids. You just look at them two, and every time I see that, I'm just thinking to myself, that poor child is gonna grow up traumatized.
Yes.
And at some point, when these celebrities' children grow up, they're gonna come to realize, my parents did all this. They said these words. They lived this kind of lifestyle. And at some point, somebody might have to tell them too. Like they might say, "Hey, your dad's a killer. Your dad sold drugs on the street." They gotta grow up with that. I think one thing I wanted to say is I commend people that do take up the father figure for a child that isn't theirs, because that's a big responsibility.
Yeah, it is. It's a beautiful thing to do too, because not a lot of men will put themselves in that position
Yeah,
ever. So to see that, yeah, when it's a good man too. Yeah, it just and it also comes from, what if the parents wasn't properly raised? It really, I feel like it's stem like, this is my theory on it. I think about it all the time actually, just from working with kids, because I'm like, how, why? I don't know. The question would just be, it's like, what's going on at home? Seriously, because I really just be thinking about it. It's so crazy to me. I really have a soft spot for kids too. So just growing up, I have seven siblings. So just to put it in perspective, I've been around kids my whole life. Um, it comes from a lot of, like you said about trauma. It comes from a lot of unhealed trauma, and parents that they got from their parents got from their parents. Trauma can still be passed down from generations. It doesn't end when somebody dies. It doesn't end when you give birth to somebody. Like, trauma can be passed down, and it just is from your habits. It's from the things you do. It's from the way you speak. So if you're speaking to your child all hard and like just yelling at them all the time, there's something that you haven't healed within you that now you're expressing out to your child, and now they're going to pick that up from you. Or maybe they don't even pick up those type of habits, but they're going to get habits of what, feeling unloved. They're not going to feel like they're enough because you're always yelling at them, and then now they have that trauma. And if they don't unlearn that, if they don't heal that trauma, they're going to pass that to their kids, and their kids might take from that, uh what they can't, they just can't do certain things, or they're just sad all the time, and then it's just passed down. And it's always something that's going to be picked up when trauma isn't unlearned. And that kind of goes with, what do they call it? What's it called? A generational curse? Is that a thing? Yeah, generational curse. Have you ever heard of that?
that sounds right.
Maybe. Yeah, I think. Yeah, I think so. It'd be like heal generational curses. I'll just call it that. It is a generational curse if you have unhealed trauma within your family that's just being passed down over and over again. And when it gets to the children, they, like I said, children literally don't know any better. Like, we can't. The only time we could blame a child, when is the time we can blame a child? I feel like when that child grows up and they don't take the steps to unlearn that themselves. Yeah, it wasn't their fault from the jump, But at a certain point in time, we can't always blame mommy and daddy for everything that's happened to us. We have to take control of our own lives. We have to recognize the patterns and we have to heal it so we don't pass it on to our future children or pass it on to other people. Like it goes way beyond just having a kid. We're passing on to the people we speak to, the relationships we have. Like stuff isn't going to work out, stuff isn't going to be right for us if we don't heal these generational curses. And I feel like it all starts it all starts in the Bible. So it just all starts coming to Christ, talking to God about it, and seeing what he says about it because come on now, he's the real healer. This is we literally just have to go to him and we have to like he'll tell us what we need to do in order to heal these things. But it's just so hard for some people to do. And honestly, if your parents never taught you how, you kind of would never know how unless you pick it up from other people. And that's why you need the right relationships in your life. That's why you need right people in your life that make you feel good, that don't make you feel bad about yourself. And that's how you know if those people are right for you or not. And if they're leading you to something way, way bigger than you, which is initially in the end coming to Christ. I feel like that's starting there. Yeah.
Yeah, I think at like you said, once you're at a certain age and you understand what your parents have taught you, it is up to you to be right and wrong. Like when I was in high school, my freshman year, I did something that got me suspended, and my mom kept saying, "I can't believe you didn't hear my voice when you made that decision. I've raised you to do the right thing all the time, and then you go against everything that I raised you to do." And my principal said the same thing. He said, "I bring in all these I bring all these speakers for chapel every Wednesday, and you just ignore what they say."
Mm,
And from that point on, I honestly had to. I've always been a big think before you do, think before you say person, but I had to adjust and increase that parameter, do a lot more thinking before I act or say.
yeah. I'm actually going to take that line from your mother. I want to be that mama. You did not hear my voice when you made that decision. What is wrong with you?
If you remember
That is,
that, and if you remember that, however long it is until your child is that age, then hey,
I don't remember that
I
because when you
couldn't.
said that, that really stuck out to me. Because, like, for real, like, they're because I know a lot of good parents that have bad children, and I look at parents like, dang, like, you actually seem like a pretty fit person to be a parent, but your child is extra bad. So it's like they don't think about you when they're doing something. I'm gonna be that mom. I'm instilling my kids, so they should know better. But if they ever do anything, I'm like, you do not hear your mama voice in that. That's funny. I'm definitely still on that. But yeah, for real. Just like as adults and as we're getting older, like now we're hearing God's voice in the situation that we're doing and things that we probably shouldn't be doing. It's like, dang, like I feel like hearing God's voice is also goes also along with I'll just say that goes also along with feeling convicted. When I feel convicted, I feel like I'm hearing God's voice telling me no. That's it. Just straight up no. So any situation where I feel convicted in, I'm like, God is definitely telling me no right now. Hi, is that Dominic?
It's Dom. Look at you looking at the chat. That's crazy.
Yeah.
What's
I'm
up, Dom?
tuned into my own stream.
Hey, that's good.
It's cool. But yeah. Dang, there was definitely another point I wanted to hit with that. I feel like what are some ways you think that as we grow older and as we come to define things for ourselves, like if we ever had any trauma, how can we just overcome that as adults? Like, what are some steps people can start to take to not be like that anymore? Because I know for myself personally, I know there's a lot of things that I went through that I probably haven't healed from or that I kind of just buried, but that I'm starting to realize and that are coming back up because you can't just bury stuff. Like, you have to get stuff out, you have to let it go, you have to deal with it. But I don't think I've always, there were times where I really didn't know how. And I feel like when you go through a lot, and then you get older, and then you have to unlearn it, so you don't pass it down to anybody else. You just like reflect how you feel, your not so good negative feelings on other people. I don't know. It's definitely just something that people have to learn. What are some ways you think Gen Z, the older us that wants to change and break these curses, what can we do?
Ooh, Gen Z. All right.
Gen
See,
Gen Z is tough.
I'm
I
old.
know.
I'm old soul. I'm old soul. See, mental
You know
health
they hard.
episode. I went in on a little bit of this. And Scripture says this too. I cannot say which one it is. I'm pretty sure
You
it's
just
in the New
remember this.
Testament. But Christians should talk about their problems amongst other Christians. And for any non-Christian that may be listening or may hear this, for anything you're dealing with, you gotta talk about it. Especially if it's built up and something you just keep to yourself. You gotta tell somebody about it. I'm not saying dump your trauma on them because you're gonna hurt the other person. Trust me, I know from experience. Um,
Wait, which person? Hurt the person you're dumping on, or hurt the person you're talking about to somebody else?
I was dumped on.
Okay, and they were talking to you about somebody else. Like somebody trauma dumped on you about what they were going through, and it was like a lot, and you were hurt. Is that what you're saying?
Oh, it was a lot. Yeah.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, talk amongst Christians. If you're not a Christian, or if you don't have, well, if you're a Christian, I hope you have other Christians to talk to. If you're not a Christian, or you're just somebody out there just like looking for good advice, you
Hmm.
gotta tell somebody trustworthy. Uh,
Yeah.
I'd say at some point you may need therapy too if it's that bad. Because, like you said, if you want to break that curse, we don't want to take trauma and instill that amongst our children and the next generations to come. So if
Yep.
it gets to that point, you might need therapy. Uh, yeah, like anything you need to dump out, just find some way to just let it out. Whether it be telling somebody, whether it be a journal, I highly recommend journals.
Yeah.
Something I used to do is just sit in my mirror. It's like a little light up mirror over in my corner. I really like it. I just sat in my mirror, and I just had to talk to myself about all of it. Uh, yeah.
That
Don't
made you feel okay.
from somebody. I'll say it's from a man that doesn't tell anybody anything about him. Don't let it build up over time. Over time, I mean all your life. Any problem you have, just find there's somebody, and it doesn't have to be your parents. Uh, there's somebody in your life that you can tell. Some people may not be fit to be listening to you and your problems, but there are definitely people that are good listeners and are willing to hear you out and offer you sound advice. Uh, and as always, read the Bible and pray. Obviously.
Always. Yeah. So, dang, another question then. So, for you said talk to people. There's always somebody you can talk to. Don't keep it in. Always get it out. Don't let it build up. That's definitely a big one. I learned that more than anybody. I can tell you, get it out. But what can the people do who just need feedback? I feel like people say to like say it to other people, talk about it, get it out. But there are some people who don't just want a listener. Like, yes, listen to me, please listen to me. But there's people out there that actually wants response back because they genuinely don't know. So I feel like when people sit and talk to the listeners and they're just listening, they don't really have to say nothing back. Sometimes it can make those people, and I've been around these people before, it makes them feel worse because it's like, oh, you don't have anything to say back. Was it too much for you? I feel like there's good to have listeners, but what about the people that needs like a response and they don't get it? Where can they go for a response?
This may sound weird, and there ain't no biblical way to back this up, but go to some male. Uh, Men tend to be extremely honest, no filter. Some, well, okay, let me rephrase that. I think, like, if you look at a relationship, It's usually the guy. The girl vents to the guy most of the time, uh, typically. And a lot of guys struggle with just shutting up and listening. They're straight to solution. They're straight to, why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? You need to do this. You need to do that. So that's one of the benefits of having, I hate to say it like that. If you have a dad, I'll say this. If you have a dad, I'd say go to your dad, even a grandfather. Ooh, okay. So that one idea that you know about that I'm working on. I went to my grandfather first, and I was more thinking, I'm not gonna lie, I told him, I was like kind of excited. I was like, yes, he's gonna like this. I'm gonna get his approval. And he's like, Nate, fix this, fix that. You need to be more, grammarly properly grammared, whatever. I was like, you know what? I didn't think about that. I really appreciate that. I really needed that. Then I went to my mom. She gave me the approval. She was like, I really love what you're doing, blah, blah, blah. Said all the things that made me feel good about it. Even though I've heard it from other people, it just felt good to hear it from family. And then she offered the advice and help and solutions. So I'd say if you have a good male figure in your life, whether it be a boyfriend, friend, father, grandfather, uncle, I think a guy could give you some good. A guy will give you feedback.
Yeah. You were gonna say like some good advice, just they will give you feedback though. Yeah. Yeah. I can see that actually. That's so funny. No. Guys do try to get straight to the point. They be like, what?
You know what?
Don't make it good.
Maybe I can scripturally back it up because it does say a man is supposed to lead, even spiritually. So ideally, a man should have solutions. I could totally be interpreting that the wrong way, but I do understand that a man's supposed to be like the leader of the church. He's supposed to be the leader in the relationship, lead the wife spiritually, and be the leader of the family, be the man of the household. So I guess I could say scripture does back it up.
I can see that scripture does back it up. Women were never intended to be the provider, and I would say with anything now, we are supposed to be there. We do have ways where we provide, but we're in the Bible. We were never meant to be the provider. Like, take even Adam for example. Look what happened when Eve ate the apple. Hold on.
Yeah. And when God gave Adam Eve, he called her the helper.
Some girls will take that so wrong.
Yeah.
A lot of women, I wouldn't say women, I'm going to call them girls because you're not a woman if you don't understand that. And I feel like there's a lot of girls out here that just don't, yeah. But we technically we are the helper. We are. It's for the best though, and I feel like girls don't understand that until they get a good man in their life. They're like, oh, like you'll want to do all the things, but we were never meant to be the provider. And there's a lot of, there's this whole thing going around about masculinity in women, and yeah, but I feel like that's definitely another topic. But yeah, you can back it up with scripture. Men, it is their job, partially. Wow, it was definitely another. I was trying to make it that. I don't know. But what if, okay, so you already said, what if somebody needs more than listener? They want somebody who can actually give them feedback. What do you think is the best way to listen? What is your best way to listen? So when somebody comes to you with things they say or things they may need help with, or just to vent, what is your role? Do you feel like you're more just a listener? Do you feel like you listen and you respond after? Do you feel like you're just the shoulder? Like, what's your position when people come to you with anything?
See, I'm a really good listener, and people have told me that a lot. I don't say that to be prideful, but I know early on, let me not say early on, I'd say maybe a few years ago, 2 years ago, I was just listen, console, like be there, just no solutions, just shut up and listen. And it's more than just sitting there and just hearing it go through your ears. Because if you just sit there and hear just a bunch of words thrown at you, it's like you weren't doing anything. You were just another object in the room. Me, I remember a lot of things. My memory is very spot on. So everything that people would say if they're talking to me, I'll just remember everything, correlate everything back. Like no word was wasted. But in my first relationships episode, this pastor, we talked about him in group therapy too. He's also a registered couples counselor, marriage counselor. He said one of the best things to say when you're in an argument talking about relationships. No. Wait. Yeah, okay. He said a lot of good things. What I'm trying to say for this one is when somebody's telling you something, let's say boyfriend, girlfriend. Let's say girlfriend's venting boyfriend. Girlfriend's done venting. What does the guy do? What you should say is, did you want to just be heard or did you want my help? Or you could say, did you want to be heard? I mean, do you want my help or do you want a hug? Meaning, do you want solutions or do you want to be consoled? Yeah. And he just emphasized communication in that point, just saying, because somebody can go from I'm just trying to vent to the person listening just saying you should have done this and that. Why didn't you do that? And then boom, moment ruined, tension. But if you just communicate in the moment, then it's totally fine. And it's not a hard question to ask. I've done it with multiple friends, and it didn't feel awkward at all, and it helped me understand what my role in that situation was. Even though my initial thought is I'm just here to listen, and they trust me with whatever they're telling me, so let's just shut up and hear what they're saying. And then you can see where to go from there. It's all about communication in the end. I have solutions, Mike, in these times. I have solutions on deck. I know one thing I did struggle with at first was what's the right thing to say. Like all of this may seem simple, but it could get complicated for the right reasons, just so you don't mess up these moments. Sometimes you might just say the wrong thing. Sometimes you don't know what to say. You're just gonna let something out. So I really think there's nothing wrong with trying to figure out, like the fact that you're asking this question, there's nothing wrong with people trying to figure out the right things to do. Because a lot of people just really don't know what to do. A lot of people go into relationships just not knowing what they want in a relationship or what it looks like and what they're supposed to do. Like, they just think attractiveness and then I want to be with you. Then look, you're in a situation where you're having a deep conversation. You have no idea how to have a deep conversation. You just gotta learn from other people in certain moments so that you know how to act accordingly when you're put in that moment.
Yeah. Well, definitely that. Definitely that. It definitely takes sitting and like kind of just observing the person, like whether it's your friend, whether it's relationship, just so you know, because they're not going to need the same thing every time. There's probably most likely going to need different things, different times. So maybe one time they do just need you to listen. Maybe one time they're waiting for you to like come back and say something. But I feel like the only way you'll know that is like you said, what do you need? Do you just want to be heard? Do you need a hug? Do you need to say something? So just communicating that. Do you feel like it's best to do that beforehand or after? After they said what they said or beforehand?
Probably after, because like let's just say ideally, it's just, hey, I need to talk to you about something. The talking happens, and then now you're in a what's next. I think that you do after you're done talking.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of people have a hard time discerning what people need in that moment, and that just goes into learning that person. But what if somebody, because this definitely been in a situation before. What if somebody was like they're listening, but it's kind of hard to tell. Oh, okay. I'm gonna go back to what you said. What you said about just hearing words and going, just coming and going. Like, how do you know if somebody's actually listening to you? How would people know that without making it seem like? Because even I used to struggle with it. Even with somebody just like staring me in my face when I'm talking to you, I feel like I used to be like, "This is going up right over your head, isn't it?" But they're like, "No, I'm listening to you," and I'll be like, "Oh no, like I can't really tell. Like, how do people know that?"
I
I
mean,
guess maybe it just comes to trust.
yeah, it's more on the other person's end. Like, are they just visibly showing like not like it's like having a normal conversation, like nodding your head, just
Yeah.
like the little things matter. It's like you said, if you're just standing there, or you're just staring at you, they're just staring at you while you're trying to say something. It's like okay,
Yeah.
they're not interested, they don't care.
Yeah, it definitely take those little gestures because and I say the same thing to people. I'd be like, well, I wouldn't know unless you're like, yeah, or like, oh, okay. Like even when people are talking to me, I'd be like, yeah. I'd be like, oh, like, ooh. Like I just make little like just to show, and I don't even be thinking like, oh, let me make these little remarks to show that I'm listening. It just naturally comes out because I'm naturally listening to you. When you're just staring at me, it just seems like you're thinking about something else. And I can say that because I done that myself before, where somebody may be talking to me, and I'm literally having a whole production going on in my head while you're looking at me. So if you don't see me making no remarks back to you, I'm most likely not. Which I don't do that anymore. But there have been times where Kamaria has been in that situation, and I always felt so bad because my mind just be everywhere and I'd be thinking about the stuff. But that was in the past. But now I can tell when somebody else is doing it because I did it before. So I'm like, dang, nod. Say yes to what I'm saying. I need you to understand me. What about those people? I'm not even gonna say people. I'm gonna say me because I'm such a big understander. So my whole thing, kind of like my philosophy of it is, you don't have to agree with me, but I for sure want you to understand where I'm coming from. Just because I'm a person that puts myself in other people's shoes, and I try so hard to understand the other person, no matter what they're going through. Even if I don't agree with it, I want to understand why you're doing something, why you're thinking that thing, why you're acting a certain way, even if I don't agree with it. So, and that's kind of why I feel like I wouldn't call it over explaining, but it can definitely be called over explaining things because I want you to understand me. So, do you feel like that's necessary? Like, what's your take on when it comes to understanding something? Do you feel like it's necessary to fully understand something, or do you feel like there are times where you're probably never going to understand?
I think at times there are situations where you can't fully understand. You can try your best. Like, I'm trying to think of an example. Like, there are times where you actually can't understand. Like, if you've never lost a loved one to death, and you have somebody that did, and they're crying, like recently lost somebody, you can't just go like, "Oh, I understand what you're dealing with," because you don't.
No.
Uh, but there are times where you may be in a position, like there may have been an argument, and then you're trying to understand one side, you're trying to understand your friend, then you're trying to understand the other person, while your friend may be wrong. You can
Mm-hmm.
understand them. Like I had this conversation before. Uh, this person was upset, but they were wrong for being upset. And I told them I understand where you're coming from. I understand your perspective, but I disagree.
Yeah.
Because people can have the wrong perspective, but just knowing what they think, that is doable. It's important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I feel like people can only understand to their own capacity. It's hard for people to put themselves in other people's shoes and understand where that person is coming from, especially when facing opposition. When you're like kind of butting heads with somebody, it's hard to understand you when I don't agree with you. So I'm not gonna get like I'm not gonna understand what you're saying because I don't agree with you. But I've never been the person to do that. Like even if I don't agree with you, I'm gonna sit here and like really try to put myself in your shoes, see where you're coming from. Just because I know we all look at things differently. We all have our own perspective on things. We all see different colors. You might think the sky is gray and I think it's blue. Like we all see things totally differently. So when it comes to understanding, yeah, I definitely had to learn that though. Like I'm not gonna understand everything. And that's even in the Bible. We're not even meant to understand everything. We have what we need, but we might not understand like what it's gonna produce or why we're in a certain situation. God says this to us all the time. So when I'm in a situation where I feel like I'm trying to understand somebody and I can't, but it's like I'm forcing it because I feel like I need to understand so I can just get you or so we can get each other. I have to remember that even God said we're not going to understand everything. And he also said it's not up to us to understand everything. It's up to him to understand what's going on because he's the one that put us in this position. He can understand it. We're just supposed to obey. We're just supposed to listen. So in times of that, I just have to remember that. Yeah, honestly, and it makes all the difference. That's the cheat code. It's so hard to do it in the moment, but after I like simmer down for a bit, I'll be like, okay, I'm literally not supposed to understand everything. Which honestly, it seems so simple to say, but it makes me feel way better about everything. Like I'm knowing that I'm not supposed to understand everything. Yeah.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with a I don't know in many situations. Because it's better to just be honest and say I don't know, better than lie about it or just force something. Because we don't have like you said, we don't understand God. Except we aren't supposed to understand everything, and we won't understand everything. So, and even in moments where somebody may come to us asking for help or advice or questions about the Bible or Christianity, it's okay. Like, I know I'm not going to be able to answer every question people come to me with. So, it's okay to say, I don't know. Uh, but I think there's a point where we should know. But I don't think it should be forced.
No. And I think I put myself in a lot of positions where if people came to me with a question, I feel like I needed to know the answer just because you're coming to me with a question. So I used to always like find ways. Not even that. I would if I couldn't answer it, I would probably point you in the direction of somebody who can. But I used to. I don't know. I think I kind of went on my way to find an answer for you just because you were asking me the question, and I don't know. I thought it was my job, but there are a lot of things that I just don't know. So when people ask certain stuff, I be like, dang, like I want to help you, but I don't think I can. You gotta pray about that one. But yeah, so like that's all I can say now. I was like, you kind of gotta pray about that one because I don't know. And this is big. It'd be hard to say. It really do because I be feeling so bad, but I don't know everything. I don't, and I used to always be put in this position where people thought I did. I don't know. It was definitely a period of that, and I used to be like, hi. But I used to stress myself out trying to find an answer. But that's just comes with me being a giver. Like I feel like if you're coming to me for something, like I'm gonna want to help you off rip just because you're coming to me for something. You're trusting me with something, but I don't know the answer. And maybe my only answer for you is to tell you to go pray about it. Maybe that's why God sent you to me, so I can send you right back to Him. So I just think about that. I'd be like, that makes me feel better too, and that just takes the stress off of it because I don't got to sit here and like try to come up with an answer or like find anything quick for you. I could just tell you to go pray. Bye, get out of my face, go pray. Real, I'm sorry, but that's just yeah. And they usually figure it out too, which is what I'm starting to notice. They usually figure it out. I don't ever get the credit for it. I don't need to get the credit for it, but I usually do notice these people figuring it out on their own. And sometimes we are just put here to tell people to go pray. We're not here to solve everything. It's just something I have to learn. Sometimes we're literally put here to be a vessel. Go to Him because I can't answer that for you.
I think in those situations, I do find, like, when I don't have an answer, I will find myself trying to give some answer. I'll at least try. I won't give up. I'll at least try. But
Yeah.
I'll emphasize that I don't fully 100% know.
Yeah. Like, hit them with one of those. I could be wrong, but
Yeah, exactly.
or like, what do you do? Oh, that's what I want to ask. I feel like I don't want to put it just because. Okay, so I read the Bible. I know scriptures. I know things that can help people. But in times of distress, people tend to really not want to hear any of that, and it makes it hard for me because those are kind of my just because these are the answers and they are the only right answers, at least to me. When you come to me in distress and I hit you with a Bible verse or something, or I don't know, how do you, has anybody ever made you feel like it was just too much? Or like, don't, don't shove that down my throat, or like, I don't know, or just get, not get mad, but they'll kind of just shrug it off. Like, they'll kind of be more upset that you tried to incorporate God in the situation. Like, I don't know, people made me feel bad about that before, but I mean, that's the answer. And if you can't handle that, then you have deeper things to work on. But I don't know. What's your view on that? Have you ever been in that situation?
I don't I don't think I have, but I think I think I might have. I just can't remember exactly. But I think there's there are times where. So are you saying like something's there, like it's real bad, and they're coming at you in the heat of the moment, asking for help, like that type of thing?
Yes and no. It was nothing like really bad, but it was just it was more so a time of not knowing, like them being confused and not knowing the answer, and they'll come to me like just kind of venting in a way, and then I'll come back like, well, this is what God says about it, type. And then it'll seem like, oh, I'm not trying to hear that, or something like that. So nothing crazy, nothing like, oh, I'm extra angry, or I mean, I guess I can get how people be fired off about that, but more so in the situation of being confused. Because I mean, that's my answer to when I'm confused, and I feel like when anybody's confused, that should be the answer. Just because we don't have the answers, I feel like we get them from Him. So when somebody comes to me like that, that's when I. But it's not. But it's not like it's not like I'm sending them a whole sermon. I'll send a verse, like maybe read into this, look into this, or this what he has to say about it. I'm not sending you like a whole this, and that, because I can get how that could be kind of, oh, you're shoving it down my throat. But I feel like even just saying that to anything that I say about God is just kind of crazy to me. Like, why? I don't know. What's your view on it? Am I tripping?
Uh, okay. In this specific situation, was this person a Christian?
Yes.
Hmm, that's interesting. Uh, I think there are times where, I mean, if they're a Christian, it's just hard to say you shouldn't offer them biblical advice. But I think, like, when I deal with people that come with me that aren't Christians, or at least don't have any interest in what I would have to say as a Christian, I
Mm-hmm.
would give them advice that is biblical, but I just wouldn't imply that it is biblical. Like, I wouldn't say the Bible says or God says. I would give them a biblical principle. Like, I would say love your neighbor as yourself instead of the Bible says love your neighbor as yourself. Because I think I mean, this situation is just confusion, so I don't think somebody should react in a way where they don't want to hear about God. But if you think of somebody grieving, don't say, "Oh, they're with God now." Like
Oh,
that type of thing would throw them off.
yeah. I get
But
that. Yeah.
there's just times where, cause like even when I'll talk about this another time. Uh, like I said, like if I was dealing with a non-Christian, that's how I would approach it. Now with a Christian, I have no idea what to say to that, cause Yeah.
Wow, I was gonna say that's interesting. Like, do you feel like it's easier? Well, you said to a non-Christian, you don't be like the Bible says. 'Cause I was gonna say, you feel like it's easier to quote Bible to non-Christians than it is to Christians in times of confusion.
It's weird because as soon as you mention the Bible or Christianity, I think that just turns people off. It's
Yeah,
if you bring religion into it, it's an issue.
I know.
But
Yeah,
every time I say some sort of biblical principle to somebody and I don't say that's biblical, they're like, "Oh, I agree. I really appreciate that." But if
okay.
I were to say it's the Bible, they're like, "Oh, whatever."
That is very interesting. I'm gonna
I
try to
kind
do it next.
of it's kind of weird because it feels like I'm deceiving, not deceiving. It's like I'm tricking people into believing in Christianity or believing in those principles. But I've always thought that biblical principles are just good principles to live by, even if you're not a Christian. Like loving your neighbor as yourself. I don't think you have to be a Christian in order to do that. Or honoring your mother and your father. I don't think you have to be a Christian to do that. That's just good human being things to do.
Literally, and it's like that is very interesting, man. It does. I have noticed that in times of like stress or anything, you mention the Bible, and it's like a turn off. So it seems like people want more. It's like they want a worldly answer. They want what society says or the things that you hear all the time, rather than Bible. But yeah, I mean the Bible are the principles. So, hmm, I'm
Oh,
gonna
I have
try.
the verse written down. Hold on. Look at my notes. Hold on. I definitely did an episode on said topic. Where is it? College, pop culture, social media. Okay. 2 Timothy 4:3-4. For a time is coming when people will no longer listen to sound and wholesome teaching. They will follow their own desires, and they will look for teachers who will tell them whatever their itching ears want to hear. They will reject the truth and chase after myths. Basically saying people aren't going to hear what they want to hear. This is implied to false prophets and people not listening to sound doctrine and what's right. They're going to go and listen to pastors or false prophets that tell them things that they want to hear, what makes them feel good. People
Yeah,
don't want to hear the truth or hear the right answer. They want to hear what they think is right or what they have on their mind. Because even
yeah,
going back to people venting to you, there's some people that they're like, I need your advice on this. And then once you don't say that advice that they want to hear,
yeah,
they're going to try and like steer you into the direction of, oh, you didn't think this, that. Because they know it's the truth and they know, like, it's kind of like delusions. Uh, like going back to relationships, I know like a lot of people, like I've heard a lot of people joke around about how they're delusional, especially when they talk to me like, Nate, this, and this is happening in a relationship. I'm like, you gotta break up with them. They're like, I know, but I'm delusional, so I'm just gonna believe that they're my dream husband, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever. So it's played out. The scripture is playing out. Like people just want to hear what they want to hear. They don't want to hear the right, correct answer. They don't realize that once you give them to the correct answer or the truth, that there's confusion is gone. Life is so much easier. Not easier. Life as a Christian is easier, but you have more understanding.
yeah. You'll know a little more,
Yeah,
essentially.
you'll have God's guidance. I'll say that. You
Yeah,
have a lot more resources.
and it's I've also noticed people, like you said about delusion, or when you don't say the answer that they want to hear, people already have the answer in their head. They just want you to back it up. So if you say what they're already thinking, then they'll be like, oh, okay, and they'll fall into that. But the moment you say something, let's take from the Bible, for instance, it's like, oh no, that's not what I wanted to hear. So people already have their mind made up. They already have what they're looking for. They just want you to say it, or they're waiting for you to back up whatever desire they have in their head. Or just like going to false prophets, they'll look up on YouTube. They want something quicker. They want a quick answer. They don't want to take the time and actually like discover, but they'll look up on YouTube 5 ways to stop being this, and that, or overnight this, and that's all false. That's the quick way. That's a quick answer, and not even I wouldn't even say answer. It's just quick. It's not an answer because one, it's not gonna last. That stuff is very very temporary. Two, it might not even work at all. It's not going to work. Anything that doesn't last doesn't work because with God stuff lasts. With God, we have eternal life. Things are eternal. The things He tells us, the promises He has, He's kept them for how long? That's eternal. So when you're looking up worldly stuff, when you're looking stuff up on YouTube, that stuff isn't gonna last. And who wants temporary things? I don't want nothing temporary around me. I'd rather take the longer route. I'd rather take the scenic route and discover rather than look up something temporary and then be right back where I was before. So personally.
The temporary thing is leading me into this different subject. I kind of want to save it.
Man, if it's like a subject, like it's something to piggyback off multiple times, you might need to save it.
I think I need to save it for the next time.
Write it down, don't lose it.
I was in my head. I was like, am I gonna talk about this today or another time? But I think I'll save it for another time.
Okay, I kind of want to hear now. Maybe you could tell me off, but I kind of want to know.
That like
You
ruins
seem
it
like
because
you seem like you're like thinking over there.
that kind of ruins like
Okay,
no.
okay,
See, now the suspense is just gonna build until next
it
time. You
is.
just don't. You just don't know.
And when people give me suspense, I feel like I have to like know it now. That's like if you were to tell me you got a surprise for me. I'll keep asking until I'm told. It's hard. You should never brought it up. And I feel like I have to know.
Well, it's unfortunate that there's only two people slash just me and you in the stream. We had five people at one point.
I know I've seen that. I feel like that was from yeah.
I think I need to send it to more group chats. Can I send it to one? Hmm.
Oh, the group chat. I don't have any group chats, but
17 people looked at my story. My main story. 9 people looked at my other story. That's besides the point. It's besides the point. It's besides the point.
yeah. Don't look at that. That would drive me crazy.
Ah, that's besides the point. Yeah, I'm just gonna gatekeep that thing until next time.
Ready? Gatekeep.
No, nobody's gonna know for a few days. Nobody has to know. And with that, I'm about to turn this stream off.
Ready?
If there's some imaginary person here, thanks for watching.